GDPR. If you are a developer like myself, you've probably heard about it. The famous General Data Protection Regulation framework from Europe. And if you are a developer, you may have questions like, does this GDPR thing actually apply to my app? Or what counts as personal data? Or can I just block Europe? Which is not an easy option, but it is still an option. I'm going to try to explain GDPR in plain terms. No legal jargon or 50-page documents or things like that. Just what you actually need to understand. And yes, I'll be simplifying quite a lot of things, and that's sort of the point here. Important thing up front, I am a developer, not a lawyer. This is educational stuff to help you understand the concepts for your specific situation. Talk to an actual legal professional. Okay, first question. Does GDPR even apply to you? GDPR applies if you are based in the EU or if you process personal data of people in the EU, regardless of where you are based in the world. The second part is the kicker. If someone in Germany downloads your app from New Jersey, United States, let's say, GDPR probably applies to how you handle their data. You can say, but my app is in English and I only accept US dollars. Well, doesn't really matter. If you're not actively blocking EU users and they can use your service, you are very likely in the scope as well. I know, I didn't like hearing this either, but it is how it is. Next question. What counts as personal data? This is where I got surprised, and I can imagine you will too. So obviously personal, name, email, phone number, address, no surprises there, but also personal, IP addresses, even dynamic ones. The regulation explicitly mentions this. This one confused me in the beginning because I thought it changes every day, so how is that personal? But it can identify a household, which can identify a person, so here we are. IP addresses are indeed personal data, no matter if they are static or dynamic. Also personal, device identifiers, your IDFA or GAID, or any ID that can be linked to a device, which for obvious reasons can be linked to a person as well. And also personal, cookie IDs and similar tracking identifiers. Also personal location data, even the approximate location data. The test is, can this data be used to identify a natural person? Directly or indirectly, on its own or combined with other data. That combined with other data part is crucial here. Your analytics might not collect names, but if they collect device ID plus location plus behavior patterns, that combination might identify a person. There is also a special category data with extra protections, like health data, biometric data, political opinions, religious beliefs, or sexual orientation. If your app touches any of these, you probably need to be extra careful and actually talk to a lawyer or something instead of watching YouTube videos. Alright, so GDPR applies and you are processing personal data. Now what? GDPR requires a legal basis for processing. There are 6 of them, but for most apps, you will mostly care about 3. 1. Consent. The user explicitly agrees. This needs to be freely given, specific, informed, and unambiguous. Pre-ticked boxes don't count here. Burying it in terms of service doesn't count either. The user needs to actually do something to agree. You need explicit consent from the user. The second one is the contract. You need the data to fulfill a contract with the user. Someone orders a physical product, let's say. You need their address to ship it. That is contract necessity. Pretty straightforward. 3. Legitimate interest. This is the trickiest one, at least in my opinion. You have a legitimate business interest. It doesn't override the user's rights, and there's no less intrusive way to achieve it. Security logging to prevent fraud might qualify. General analytics for business improvement, this is a gray area, at least to my understanding. That is genuinely debated, and I've heard lawyers argue both sides. And some countries in Europe seem to be more understanding of collecting general analytics data for improving the business itself. So here's the important part. You need to document which legal basis you are using for each type of processing. Write it down somewhere because you'll need it if anyone asks. And for the consent part specifically, you need to be able to prove that it was given. A common mistake developers can make, assuming consent covers everything. But consent can be withdrawn at any time as well, and then you need to stop that processing immediately. If your app fundamentally can't work without certain data, consent might not be your best basis here, but the contract might make more sense. Well, I know, it is difficult to be a developer lately because of these details, so let's move on. GDPR also gives users specific rights. As a developer, you need to actually be able to fulfill these. Let's start with right of access. Users can ask what data you have about them. You need to provide it with a number of days as specified in the law in a readable format. Right to rectification. If their data is wrong, they can ask you to fix it. This part is sort of easy. The other one is the right to erasure, the right to be forgotten. Users can ask you to delete their data anytime they want. There are exceptions, but generally you need a deletion mechanism as well. I know it is getting complicated, but please bear with me. Right to data portability. Users can ask for their data in a machine-readable format to take elsewhere. Here is what this means technically. Your database schema matters here. If you can't identify which records belong to which user, you can't fulfill these rights. If data is scattered across services with no way to query by user, you have a problem. Let me talk about analytics specifically, since that is what most apps implement. Traditional analytics platforms collect a lot of data. Device IDs, IP addresses, session identifiers, behavior data, and so on. Under GDPR, most of this qualifies as personal data. And for consent-based analytics, this means no tracking until consent is given explicitly. If the user declines, you get zero data from them. And consent needs to be as easy to withdraw as it was to give. This is partly why I built Respectlytics the way I did. By not collecting device IDs, not storing IP addresses, and using session identifiers that only exist in memory and rotate frequently, the goal is to minimize what qualifies as personal data in the first place. It doesn't mean consent requirements automatically disappear. That depends on your jurisdiction and specific implementation, I have to say. But it changes what you're dealing with. Just consult your legal team to figure out what applies to your situation. But whatever analytics approach you use, the key questions are: what exactly is being collected? Where is it stored and for how long? Can you actually delete it if asked by any user? Let me leave you with some practical steps. Audit what you are actually collecting, not what you think you are collecting, what is actually being sent in the analytics data or framework by the users. Implement data export and deletion capabilities. Even if no one has asked for it yet, they surely will one day. Review your third-party services. What are they collecting? Where are they based? Do they have any data processing agreements? Basically, keep data retention minimal. Don't keep things just in case. Define retention periods and actually enforce them. GDPR isn't about blocking you from building products. It is, at least what they say, it is about being intentional and transparent about data practices. Once you understand the principles, it becomes less scary and more like good engineering practices. At least that is what I try to tell myself. Remember, this is educational and not legal advice. Your situation might have nuances I can't possibly know about. If something seems important, definitely get professional guidance. So that is GDPR in about 10 minutes. And feel free to drop questions in the comments if you have any. If you found this breakdown of the boring legal stuff helpful for your dev workflow, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. I'm building out more content on privacy-first engineering, and I would highly appreciate having you on board as well. See you next time.